such an asshole.
Today, what we're going to do is show normal people how they can install Linux, and not so much show them, but give them the confidence, because the processes are a little bit lengthy, not too intimidating, which I have linked below to people who've done a much better job on the technicalities. But I want to give all the normal people out there the confidence that you can do this, and not only can you do it, you should. And so I want to put together a short, quick video. We're going to make this. We're going to make everybody, and this is going to make your life a lot easier, a lot less headache, and save you lots of money. Okay, first, what is happening is Windows, Microsoft, is coming up with another operating system and forcing everybody to update it because they want to make more money. No, it's not a better operating system. No, it's not required. This is just pure greed and evil. And on top of it, it burdens everybody in the world who runs Windows to go and spend more money and waste their time with the chore of having to update. There are other reasons you may want to switch to an alternative. You could use Mac, all right, but we're going to do Linux for those of you who like Windows in that environment. But there are many reasons why you want to switch. And I know it's convenient just to hit upgrade, but you don't. This would be the time to take a stand against Microsoft and tell them to fuck off. All right, first, Windows 11 costs more money. It may be embedded into the price of the computer, but you're going to spend more money, and ultimately, it is not a required upgrade. We should have just stuck with Windows 7, but no, Microsoft needs more because it's a fucking monopoly. Number two, Windows 11 will spy on you. They won't call it spyware. They won't call it malware. They are way too much up in your shit, stealing information, taking screenshots and all that. It is basically spyware now. They can debate all that all they want, but no, it is taking data you are not aware of and probably don't want it taking. Number four, whatever, Windows 11 requires new computers to run because it is so bloaty. There's so much code that your regular, it depends on how powerful your processor is, but computers that are generally 4 years old are not going to be able to run it. So now not only do you have to pay for a new operating system, you get to buy a new computer. 5, Windows 11 is a memory hog and will slow down your computer if it has the ability to run it. They are doing like a constant backup. I'm not an IT guy. I'm not a computer scientist, but there is so much shit that you don't need, especially if you're just a regular old email and Netflix type of person. You just don't need this. It's just going to slow your computer down and drive up your cortisol and shorten your life expectancy because of all the stress it causes. There is rumor that they will potentially be running ads on your computer because your life doesn't suck enough. Fuck you, Microsoft. If you care, Microsoft is a woke company that couldn't wait to do DEI and bigoted policies, but that may not concern you. You may have noticed this. Windows is constantly nagging you about upgrading to the cloud and backing up to OneDrive and Copilot and set up an account. Right? Not only do you not want your data on the cloud, or maybe you just want it, but you get sick and tired of the nagging. You want to update? You want to update? We're going to update. Oh, and we forgot. Oh, geez, we forgot all your preferences. We forgot all your settings. Oh, you got to reset it now. It is a chore. It is like dealing with an oppressively nagging wife. And Linux doesn't do that. You install it. You want to update to the cloud? You want Copilot? That doesn't do that, which will save you a ton of money and stress. You will need to set up an account on Windows 11. So far, you haven't had to have an account with Microsoft. You will need to do that unless you are familiar with command prompts, like actually programming on the command prompt, which for most normal people, which I am in terms of the computer world, is you don't know how to do it. And you know what? You don't want to learn it. You don't want to learn it. And I don't know about you. I'm sick and tired of creating usernames and passwords only for them to get hacked by hackers. So there is no central Linux. It's open source software. So there's no company called Linux that you need to set up a username and password. It's a free operating system. Linux will also not nag you about saving usernames and passwords every time, although that's more of the browser you choose. You want to remember this? No, I don't want my data. I don't want my usernames and passwords saved on this computer. So if someone steals it, it's recorded. No, I don't want you to do that. Linux ain't going to ask you that. Brave browser won't either. It will not undo all your settings once there's an update. Linux does have updates. And overall, I'm not a computer guy, but I'm an economist. I guarantee you're going to spend less time and money learning to install Linux than the lifetime of clicking no and upgrading and updating, and heaven help you if you have to watch ads on Windows 11. In other words, you are going to pay more in terms of time, money, and definitely stress and shortened life expectancy dealing with Windows 11 than if you take the time for it's not going to be more than an afternoon. I mean, if it takes an afternoon, that's bad. I think you could do this in about an hour. And that nagging, oppressive housewife goes away. And we're done. So let's go through this orderly. Again, this is a top-down view. The very detailed instructions I'm going to go over there are 2 videos linked in my description below that are excellent and superior to what I would do here. All right. 1, do I have the technical ability to switch? Yes, you do. I have a rule. Like if you can go find internet, naughty pics, you have the ability to do this. Friend of mine, he couldn't find a job online because he didn't know how to set the zip code, and he wasn't all that computer savvy. So he's trying to find a job in this. He didn't even know to set it in this town and look for. I can't find any jobs coming up with my jobs. Like, did you provide the zip code? Did you provide what you're looking for? Oh no. Literally 3 days later, dude, I got laid on the internet. I'm like, wait a minute. You weren't able to find a job, but you were able to find pussy. It's motivation. Yes, you have the ability to switch, and your motivation should be the lifetime nightmare that not only you're going to have to deal with Windows 11, but guess what's coming in another 3 years? Windows 12. And guess what's going to come after that? Windows 13. And it's going to get bloatier and bloatier and just make your life miserable. So yes, not only do you, I think it is absolutely within every normal person's ability to install Linux, especially with those videos linked below. A lot of people are like, well, what if I need Windows for my video games or work or something like that? Not everyone's going to be able to make the switch to Linux. If your company, for example, requires you to have a Windows operating system and you work remotely, yes, a lot of video games are going to require it. So yes, but unless it's that instance, like you have video games especially, most people, if I need my email and Netflix, or I just need a computer processor type or a word processor type of stuff, yes, for most people, you do not need Windows 11 and you can use Linux, and it's easier. It's better. So here's specifically what you're going to do. I'm going to give you an overall conceptual understanding of what you're going to do to install Linux. And then the details are again in those links below. Okay, so again, what we're going to do is we're going to create what's called a bootable thumb drive. I got that upside down. It says Mint Cinnamon. I'll explain that in a little bit second later. But you need yourself about an 8 gigabyte or more thumb drive. This is it. And what you're going to do is you're going to put a temporary Linux operating system on this USB drive. You are going to plug it into your computer, and you're going to tell your computer, do not fire up or boot like you normally do from the regular hard drive of the computer. I want you to boot up from this. And then it will boot up from the Linux operating system, and you will be technically running Linux right off the bat. Then this does not mean Linux has been installed on your computer. It's just running from this thumb drive. At the top left, once you open this, you boot it from this USB drive, you will see an option that says install Linux. You double click on that. That will then install Linux on the computer, wiping everything off of the computer. You'll have to restart. It'll guide you through the installation process. You'll then pull this out. You'll turn on your computer. You're going to have to go into BIOS. I'll explain that in a second here, a little bit later, saying, okay, now don't boot from the USB no more. I have the new operating system installed on the physical computer. You could boot up normally as you did before, so boot it from the computer. So you'll go into the boot menu, and plenty of videos on how to do that. And then you should have yourself an operating system. All right. So the general process is going to be this: using a Windows computer. There's a lot of videos out there where you have a Linux operating system and say, oh, here's how you do it. It's like, but that's a Linux operating system you're using. I have Windows. I have the shit operating system. I want to get rid of it. So using a Windows computer, you will go to linuxmint.com and download. There's many variations of Linux. You're going to use Linux Cinnamon Mint, or Linux Mint Cinnamon. It's the same thing. Mint is a variation. Cinnamon is a variation of Mint. The reason why is because that's the one that worked for me, and it was the easiest one to install and didn't give me no guff. All right. There are many other variations. Hey, I'm just going to make it simple for you. Cinnamon Mint. There you go. All right. If you watch videos, they will call this operating system, any Linux operating system, an image ISO. You know why they do that? Neither do I. It's nerds who like to give different names to things that perfectly good words are in. You will download the image ISO, also known as the operating system, Linux Mint. And that's all it is. They'll say image ISO on the instructions, but you're just downloading the Linux Cinnamon Mint operating system. Now, Windows is not Linux. So now you have this operating system, the little file or the ISO image, and you need to make the bootable drive. To do that, you will download another program called Rufus, Rufus. That is a Windows program, and that will carry you through on how to take that operating system or ISO image and make this bootable drive with it. The instructions are down below, specifically how to do that. Now you're saying, oh my God, it worked. I followed the instructions on the first video. Now I install, right? Now I boot up from the USB drive. No, because what you downloaded for the operating system, there's a small but not a 0% chance it's been corrupted. Someone might have put a corrupted file, some spyware on it, whatever else, some viruses. So you need to do this thing called a checksum. Aaron, what's checksum? Checksum is another words nerds who don't get late came up with to be and mean verify. You're going to verify that your Linux Mint operating system you just downloaded doesn't have any malware or viruses. It's called checksum because you're checking the total sum of the code, or at least that's what I think it is. If you're a Linux nerd who doesn't have sex, please don't correct me in the comment section below. We're talking normal people here who just need to move on in life, right? So you got to verify that. And there's a link down below by the same guy who did the first video on how to do that using a Windows computer. That is the hardest part of this entire process, but you can do it. And I guarantee you're going to spend less time and frustration dealing with that than a lifetime. Remember, we are liberating you from Microsoft for not just this Windows 11 reign, for the rest of your life. You never have to say, no, I don't want you to remember my password. No, I don't want to update to the cloud. No, I don't want to set up an account. No. Here's what Here's what we're doing. We're taking your typical loud, nagging American housewife, and we're replacing her with a nice, doting, sweet Asian wife from overseas. That's somewhat unfair, but it's funny. And that's kind of it. They are not going to nag you about the dishes or the yard or the lawnmower. Linux will just leave you in peace. I've been using it for like 4 days, and it just leaves me in peace. There hasn't been one. It's quiet. Like, never mind. Anyway, so the verifying is the hardest part. And it will take you probably 20, 25 minutes to do it right. And you have to follow his instructions very thoroughly. So be prepared to pause, do the next thing. Have another computer up and running so he's there giving you the instructions. You can see the screen, and then on the computer you're doing this work on, you could follow along and you not skip a step. but his steps are very thorough. It's just that he's so used to it, he kind of goes through it very quickly, but it will work. I got my notes here. All right. Now, and then once you have your operating system and you checksummed it or verified it's not virus, then you can install it not only on one computer, all. This is it. This is all you need. Once you verified that this is a virus-free Linux operating system, you plug it in and then you can install it on any computer you want. Now, keep in mind it will blank out the computer and eliminate everything. So you want to have backup files. By the way, if you want to, but will my Windows files, like I have Word and I have this and that? Yes. Yes. It will open up in Linux. And if you like your Windows programs, there's a company, there's a program called Wine that will run Windows programs if you like the interface on Linux. You can do it. You don't have to stay with the fat, loud, nagging housewife. Okay, so then here's the installation process. And here you'll probably want to watch another video because this is kind of universal regardless of the variant of Linux you got. But generally what you're going to do is you're going to fire up your computer. You're not even plugging this in yet, but every computer has a boot sequence saying, okay, you're going to boot or fire up the operating system typically from the hard drive. But what you're going to do is you're going to go into what's called a BIOS menu to reprioritize the order in which your computer is going to boot. You're going to say, no, don't boot from the hard drive, boot from the USB. It depends on the model of computer you have. It's different for every computer, but when you press power, you're going to press either the common keys are F2, F8, F10, and F12. So you got to look up on the internet. Okay, here's my model. What key gets me into the boot menu? So when you turn it on, you have to constantly hit the F8 before it goes and there's like that boot menu and it says Dell and it's loading. That's when you got to hit. It's like you got to interrupt and say, no, don't load up the operating system. Let's go into the boot menu. And the boot menu is kind of like you use your up and down keys, although some of them allow you to use your mouse. And of course, it also depends on the computers, like the second hardest thing. And you have to tell it boot from the USB. I wish it was that clear. I've done this on 3 different computers. They all have slightly different boot menus. Somewhere in there is a way to say, do not boot from the hard drive, boot from the USB. And so you may need to look up some added tutorials on, okay, well, this Hewlett Packard doesn't have something as obvious as that. What is boot from USB? Sometimes you have to turn off the enable safety boot, which doesn't allow anything but the hard drive. So it's a little more complicated, but since it's highly dependent on the computer, we can't troubleshoot it now. I'm just giving you the general process. But once you find out, okay, boot from the USB, and you save your settings, and then you turn the computer off. Then you put this into the USB, so there's something to boot from. You fire up the computer again. The computer will say, oh, we're going to boot from this USB, and then Linux should start running, right? You will notice it is basically just like Windows, except slightly different graphics. Like your mouse clicker is an arrow, at least with Cinnamon. You can tailor these things. It takes a little bit of getting used to, like, okay, is that the start button? Because you're conditioned to look at start or the Windows button. But it takes an hour most to, oh yeah, that's what that is. This is what that is. And so it's very intuitive. Just like any other Windows computer, you look on the top left, you'll say, oh, there's Linux Mint installation. Because again, it's not installed on your hard drive. You double click on that, Linux Mint will carry you through the installation process. After that, it will say you have to restart the computer in order to finish installation. Do not pull the thumb drive out. It's not done installing. Leave it there. Hit restart. It will tell you when to pull the thumb drive out, and then you pull the thumb drive out. The final thing you have to do is then, so you've pulled out the thumb drive, right? Now it will first go to your thumb drive to fire up and now boot in Linux, right? You got a new operating system. It's going to go to USB first. It's going to realize there's no USB to boot from. Then it'll boot from your hard drive. Down the road, though, let's say you put a thumb drive in and it's, I don't know, pictures of your vacation. Well, the computer's gonna boot from the USB. It recognizes a USB, but it's not an operating system, and it's just gonna get stuck because it's looking for an operating system. So what you have to do is you have to go back into the BIOS menu and set the boot sequence or boot order back to hard drive first, and then the USB second or third or whatever else you want. And that's it. There you go. Um, Maybe the other thing you wanna do is install Brave because pretty much all the, Chrome, for love of God, don't install Microsoft's browser. Firefox, they're all collecting your data. You may wanna look at a Brave browser. There's other browsers out there that are very secure. If you don't need to live stream or anything, you might wanna look at Tor. All right. You are going to say, well, but wait, what about Microsoft Office? I need Office. I need all you could. There are replacements for that. There's Google Docs, pretty much the exact same thing. You got Excel, Word, PowerPoint, or Office Libre, or Apache Office. I think is another one. Those are three things that you can replace Microsoft Office with, and then you don't want three. Oh, no, I forgot. Another reason to get rid of Windows. Um, you don't have to have a subscription service now to Microsoft Windows or 365 or whatever horse shit they're offering now. You just install the free software and then you can save it as Word docs, right? And it's up to you. I know this is, you know what, we shouldn't have to do this, right? We should be able to take the $300 and maybe toss it to our kids' retirement or 529 college fund. We should not have to spend 2 hours of our day installing Linux on our computers. We should spend time with our families and maybe have free time, like, can you just leave us no, we shouldn't have to constantly say, "No, I don't wanna update. No, I don't want a subscription service so I can use Microsoft Word." Dude, Word 2003 is, like, the best word ever. There's not all this over-engineered horse shit. Your life will just get easier with Linux. And so, yeah, it's a pain. Might be a little apprehensive. That's why I kinda put this video together so you have a little. Dude, you gotta have, like, look, you gotta have a computer laying around that you don't use, right? Why not try it, right? I don't think I know everyone can do it. It's not that hard, especially because most of you can find what you want on the internet anyway, right, guys? Guys especially, right, guys? So give it a shot, but there's no reason. You don't have to suffer this, for lack of a better word, annoyingly evil. It's not like super evil. They're just annoyingly evil company making your computer life hell, constantly having update, constantly having to spend money. You don't have to deal with it anymore. You can have the nice, quiet, a foreign bride who cooks for you, maybe doesn't even speak English, like, oh my God. And you can get rid of this nagging wife operating system and have a peaceful, quiet computer life anyway. I don't know who you married, but at least you have a quiet computer life. That's it. The links to that is down below. We might have some super chats here. We got two. Burbshite, 2 Australian. They can put those ads somewhere poorly illuminated. Yes, exactly. And Femboy Fantasia, $5. Cap, I listened to the video regarding human peer bonding and humiliation. Was that my video? I waited an hour once for a very large ex subject. Do your thing. What are you talking about, Femboy? What? Femboy, you all right? Would you mistype something? I don't want to go back and hunt down the super chat. You can hit me up later on a different one. There you guys go. I hope that was of help. Please check out those videos below. They're in order. And hopefully the Microsoft nightmare ends. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.